good morning, good evening, and good afternoon. However you're watching, wherever you're watching, however you're listening, wherever you're listening. It's the Bet Online Salute Detroit podcast. We have the Bearded Bandits. We are officially the Bearded Bandits. In the comments, they called us the Bearded Bandits. So I guess
Yeah.
we are officially the Bearded Bandits now. Jamal, you have to jump on. Everybody in the
Hey,
comments.
I named us the Bearded Bandits, and
Yeah.
I shaved earlier today. I mean, it's just just a tragic turn of events over here, you know.
If
Yeah,
you
you had a
guys
shadow last episode.
Yeah.
If you guys think Jamal should grow his beard out, just leave a thumbs up in the comments. If we get 100 thumbs up, let's get Jamal. Let's get a beard by Jamal. There's 2 right now.
If we get 100 thumbs up, I won't shave until March.
All right, there we go. Oh, there we go.
100 thumbs up. Okay, I like
100
this.
thumbs up. So
100 thumbs up.
Here we go. So today, guys, we are talking. Oh, I'm sorry. I didn't even ask you guys how you're doing. I apologize. Ryan, how are you doing today?
None taken. Good. Great. Splendid. Excited to be here. So how are you doing?
I'm doing great. We got the good news today. We'll be down in San Diego for the bowl game. So we get to see the Trojans play. We'll be down in San Diego. So you guys come check us out. We'll let Rye Die figure out what we're doing. So I'm not going to announce anything yet. I'll let him work his magic because I don't want to get him to what does he say, Jamal? We'll think about it. Or I'll let you know
Yeah. I'll let you guys know. When it's I'll let you guys know. That's when you're in trouble. So
yeah. So we'll let Ryan work his magic, and when we get something going, we will let you guys know. But we will definitely be down there. If you guys are down there and you see us, don't be afraid to come and say hi, take pictures, do all that good stuff. And we have the Madman himself. Pretty excited because he's about to go on Christmas break because this industry goes on Christmas break. So he's get to. Is it paid or do they not pay? I should put your business all out there, but
no, I mean it's paid vacation. Yeah. It's
nice.
The thing with aerospace is you get no outside of Christmas and Thanksgiving and Labor Day. You don't get any holiday, and what they do is they just basically stack all of it and give you 2 weeks. That doesn't count towards your vacation, so it's nice. I mean it sort of depends on if you enjoy more kind of 3-day weekends, then that's that you won't like that, but then it almost becomes kind of a second vacation in the year, when you stack it all up.
Ooh. I like that. Yeah, I would like that for sure. Yeah. It's like, I get the full Christmas vacation. That's great. I didn't even know that.
It's like you're in school again.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, absolutely.
Winter break, baby.
Oh yeah, Ash Fernandez, always tells me, he's like, man, when you grow up one of these days and don't have winter break, then come talk to me, when you're an adult. So
definitely. So we got not the full crew here, but we got the crew. We got the spring crew. Let's do it like that. We got the spring crew here so far. So today we're resuming our roster talk, and we're going into the O-line. Good thing Ryan is here because we're going to need an optimistic guy. I'm not very high on this group, but
I thought you said optimistic guy. I heard Optimus Prime. So
maybe
I'm glad
Optimus
Ryan
Prime.
is here because we need Optimus Prime.
He might
like that better.
There we go.
Oh heck yeah! USC's Optimus Prime, Ryan Dyrud. Here we go.
Better. Yeah.
Let's throw it up. Let's throw it up. So we got the Trojan online. So I'll just explain it to you guys for those who can see. The white are the guys who are graduating, so I didn't highlight them at all. As you go through it, the red are seniors. The yellow are going to be sophomores, and the burgundy color is going to be juniors. So we'll go through that. So the reason why it's like this time too is because I don't know particular position. And Ryan, I hope you sign for us today. And I don't know. This is probably the deepest in the roster. I don't know who's on scholarship or not, and I really didn't have time to search on 24/7 to see who's on scholarship or not. So neither here nor there. Let's jump into it. Hard conversation. Jared Kingston, he's out. Justin Diedick, he's out. Cooper Lovelace, I think he was a walk-on. He's out. Tucker Grant is out. Gino Quinones is out. And Michael Turquain is out. They all graduated. They were all seniors. They were all actually redshirt seniors. So that at least gives us 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 scholarships back here. I think the Cooper Lovelace was a walk-on. So we get 5 scholarships back from the offensive line. So that's pretty good. When you look at it all together, we're looking at no seniors coming back to play. I'm sorry. Excuse me. We got 3 seniors coming back to play the offensive line. We got a ton of freshmen. We got 3, 4, 5, 6 freshmen, and we have 2 guys that are going to be juniors. So let's roll through this thing. Let's see how it goes. We'll start with Derek Andrews. Ryan, I'm really going to need your help here. I don't know how deep you are in the offensive line. This is going to be rough. Deep. So Derek Andrews, I did do some research on Derek Andrews. I do not think he's a scholarship player, so we probably won't see much from him. He doesn't affect it, so we can move on from Derek Andrews. Jack Sunjar is also a walk-on, so we don't have to worry about him. But we'll get into the freshmen. We'll talk about Michael Benuelos. There we go. Benuelos.
Yeah, I'll say this, Coach. The 3 freshmen that we can talk about that will have an impact are Michael Benuelos, Elijah Page, and Alani Noah. Those are the 3 that fans need to know.
Okay, so we know that these 3 guys has got time in the first 4 games, right? And then there were some games where Alani Noah got some time later down the road in the season. This is what I do like about the new rule is that these guys get a chance to get their feet wet. And when they actually do become starters, it won't be their first game, if that makes sense. Like they're used to the speed and they've been in a playing situation. Let's start with Michael Benuelos. Got 6'2", 300. Looks like he'll be a center. I wish they put what they actually are on here. But we'll just go around like this. These freshmen are going to compete for starting time. The offensive line was not good last year. Very below average, subpar offensive line. If these freshmen, like the 3 you said, Michael Benuelos, Alani Noah has a lot of high rankings, and the other one was who? Elijah Page. Elijah Page, 6'7", 300, right? So that looks like a tackle. Alani Noah's a guard, and Michael Benuelos is probably a guard center, which is a good core, right? I would prefer, be honest with you, these guys do everything they can to become starters because now you have starters as a sophomore, you got them starters as a junior, and depending how good they are, they may go. If they don't go, you have 3-year starters on the offensive line. I know that's way past Jamal's timeline, but you have a solid team now, and you have enough experience with these young guys on the offensive line. And the camaraderie out of all positions, besides quarterback and receiver, is offensive line because of all the communication that goes on and, identifying the mic, sliding protections, checks, and audibles. So I do hope these guys compete, and I would not be upset if those 3 guys end up starters. I will start with you, Ryan. What do you think?
Yeah, I mean, that's going to be the real difference maker in this unit. And, you said it, consistency and continuity is so important on the offensive line. And this past year, that group was really for lack of better words, a patchwork unit. When you see Pregnon transferring in, Dedich moves from guard to center. They lost a lot of big pieces from the previous year when I think they probably overplayed what expectations were. And so now getting this freshman class in, they have 2 more incoming freshmen. I'm not saying they're going to start, but you're building the foundation of this offensive line to be better in 24. And then hopefully by 25, you have a really solid group that has a lot of continuity that has played well together. So I think obviously during the season, coaches aren't going to say, what they know, but I think it was clear that it was a patchwork offensive line, and why we saw so many combinations was what could work, but also planning for the future of getting these freshmen reps so that now in 24, they have playing time, like you said. So I know they're excited. I know Coach Riley even said on Monday, they feel really good about the 3 freshmen going into next year. We'll see what that means, come spring ball and come the weight room and some new transitions that they do. But I would think, based on those 3, if they get 1 or 2 guys in the transfer portal, the 2 big freshmen coming in 24, it's going to be a much better unit, at least in 24 than was last year, and then much better 25 and beyond. So, I think it's in a better spot than what maybe the outside world thinks. I'm not saying they're going to be the top, offensive line in the Big Ten, but I think they're building it the right way, at least.
Before I get to you, Jamal, I will say this. One thing I do like, Elijah Page, 6'7", 310. That's a big body. Alani Noah, 6'4", 325. That's a big body. So they are, a lot of people say like Lincoln Riley likes to recruit small. These dudes ain't small. These are these are some big uglies down in there, and that's the size that you are going to need to be dominant. So, like you said, hopefully the weight room and the strength and conditioning gets them right and make them explosive. So once you're big and fast, look out. That there's going to be a lot of good coming. Jamal, what do you think about these freshmen?
Yeah, I think you guys said it really well. I really like the idea of three freshmen kind of growing together. And this year they had kind of limited reps, as Ryan talked about. It was more kind of situational football, given kind of circumstance. And now they kind of come in and they get an opportunity to have continuity with each other. They build chemistry, but they're also building leadership roles. And I think it's just so important to have leaders on your offensive line. When you go back and you look at, the great Pete Carroll days, and you look at the Bakers and you look at others where they were the leaders, in many ways outside of Leinart and Bush were the guys on the offensive line. And so I think building that leadership core is so important. And Fred, I think you said it really well. The two guys I particularly have my eye on is Page and Noah, just because of how they're built. I love these tall linemen, these guys 6'5", 6'6", 6'7", and Page being kind of 6'7", 310. If he has the opportunity to kind of put on maybe another 10 pounds even, I mean, he has the potential to be an absolute monster, not only at this level, but at the next level. And then Noah is someone whose center of gravity to me is sort of ideal for kind of a prototypical offensive lineman. So I think there's some gems here, and it's just going to be a matter of how quickly they develop and how, fortunate they are going to be to avoid injury. I mean, that's always the biggest concern here with the offensive line, but the studs are starting to kind of get in place to build a foundation. I think 24 is going to be an interesting year because these guys are rounding out from a potential standpoint, and I think they're going to make a step. But you're also going to have a quarterback, no matter who it's going to be. I have a hard time believing whoever is going to be the signal caller in 24 for the Trojans is going to be as elusive as Caleb Williams and as poised under pressure and ability to improvise and extend play. So this group is going to have to get better. If this is even a group that's maybe 10 or 15% better than they were last year, I don't know if you can have the same results offensively given at the quarterback position. You're probably going to get 10, 15, 20, 25% worse, no matter who it is, just because of how good Caleb Williams was. So you have to sort of think through that dynamic a little bit. But I really like what I'm seeing in terms of growth here at this position.
Yeah. So let's move forward. Let's go to guys that are going to become juniors. So Kalen O'Connor, he's a walk-on. I looked that one up. So only junior on scholarship is Mason Murphy, right? He had some playing experience. He was on that rotation. I mean, I'll just play like this. I wasn't impressed with the offensive line this year at all. I think there was a little overrated type stuff, and he was one of those guys that was on that offensive line coming in. Everybody was high on. So, I mean, this sucks to say, but if he loses his spot to somebody in the portal, or if he gets beat out by one of the younger guys, I think that puts the team in the best position possible. So Jamal, real quick, what do you have to say about this lone incoming junior?
The Lone Ranger, I think. Look, I think at any sort of spot, as long as you're sort of creating competition, I think one of the challenges that happened this past year, is it seemed like because of the lack of depth on the offensive line, it was very definitive who was going to play what spot at the start of the season. And then when guys underperformed and, got injured, then it started becoming this musical chairs at the line. And so it became a situation where it was very reactive. Lincoln had to be very reactive to what his players were kind of giving him. And as a result, there was sort of a lack of continuity. I think even if you have guys in this system that aren't necessarily going to be starter quality, but if they can push the guys that are going to be starter quality and you create that competition, you're going to be very proactive about who you're going to put out there. And then you're going to be a lot more resilient in season to any adversity that comes about. So I think really the gems here, Fred, to be very honest with you, are the freshmen. I think it sort of tapers off here after that. But I think the upperclassmen, as long as they can push these freshmen to start building the right habits, bringing their experience, obviously their starting slots out there. I think that's really the role of these guys moving forward, to really start building the foundation and the culture and the habits and the mentalities of kind of an elite offensive line a year, 2 years, 3 years from now.
Ryan?
Yeah, I don't need to add too much more. I think having someone like a Murphy as a rotational, versatile depth piece is what you want. Like, you don't want to go into the year probably having him as a true starter on your 5, but he does have versatility. He's played on the tackle and the guard position, and obviously has that veteran leadership. So, if you can keep him on, scholarship, keep him on the line in that room as a vet leader, I mean, that's great. You just probably don't want him to be, one of your 5 starters, but if he rotates in, or if there's injury, he's been there, done that, played that. So, I think he's a nice to have, not necessarily a guy that you're looking at to carry that room into the Big Ten.
I got you. So let's move on to the seniors. I'm just looking at something up real quick. Sorry about that.
This will be an interesting one.
So let's move on to the seniors. So we got Andres DeWork. Andres DeWork, he's on scholarship. Emmanuel Pagnon, he's on scholarship. Actually, all the seniors are on scholarship. So Andrew Malik is on scholarship, and Jonah Moheim is on scholarship. I'm kind of speechless because, like, we haven't really got any production out of the seniors. I know they're going to say Jonah Moheim's the guy and this and that, but to me, he was highly overrated, and I don't think he was very good at offensive line, right? These older guys are not bruisers, and these older guys, to me, set a bad example. And I know some of them are Clay Helton guys, and they moved over to the Lincoln Riley system, and we get into all that, but, like, they weren't very aggressive, right? They'll probably come in as the starters, but if they get their spot taken, I wouldn't be surprised. Jonah Moheim, I hope he's not considering going to the league because he's not ready. Man, it's just they're just not tough enough. And I hate this. They're going to kill me. I know they're kids, but I'm talking about football tough. Let me put it like that. They're not football tough. They're not go-getters, bruiser guys, and that's what we need out of them. So hopefully, like, these younger guys, and we could build a line, and, like, the younger guys are coming in on recruits, actually challenge, like Jamal said, creates competition. So I'm not really high on these guys. Like, if they do get the spot taken, I think it's for the better, but that competition is good for these upcoming sophomores. What do you think, Ryan?
Yeah, I mean, and I agree. He hasn't announced, to my knowledge, but Jonah Moheim hopefully does come back and doesn't decide to go into the draft. But having him and Pregnon as those leaders and those vets. Pregnon, correct me if I'm wrong, I think transferred from Wyoming last year, so making the jump from the Mountain West to the Pac-12, and then now from the Pac-12 to the Big Ten. And he had his struggles. Certainly wasn't, I think, as good as the hope was when he was a high star transfer, if you will. And Moheim had some struggles too, but at least it does bring back some continuity there. So again, similar to like Murphy, it's a nice, I think, vet leadership piece to have. You want to see these freshmen are really what the future are in terms of big body, in terms of skill set going into the Big Ten, in terms of hopefully just the actual talent level that needs to be on display for this offense line. And like Jamal said, for a probably lesser quarterback playing. But I think having, Moheim and Pregnon going into the season is still a positive to have, just because they did start basically every game last year.
Yeah, the locker room leadership. I get that point. I understand that, but hopefully it's just not a bad way. Jamal, in 90 seconds, tell me what you think.
Moheim, to me, might be the X factor to the whole season, because I think if he is able to make a jump, because there's potential there. And I think right now, Fred, to your point, what we saw was habits, preparation, just sort of putting it all together on the field wasn't quite there. But there's a big difference when you have 4 credible starters on your offensive line versus 3. There's a huge tipping point there. And so for Moheim, if he can develop and kind of be the guy we think he can be, then, that sort of allows these 3 freshmen to come along. If he has kind of a year that he did this past year, and you're really only relying on kind of 3 guys and they're freshmen, and you don't know, going into their sophomore year with no depth, it's going to be really troubling to kind of, open up holes in the run game, to pass protect, to really kind of keep that offense on schedule. So to me, Monheim in so many ways is the X factor, because you know what you're going to get at running back in general. You know what you're going to get at wide receiver. You know what you're going to get, relatively speaking, at quarterback. But the difference between 3 quality offensive linemen and 4 is kind of the difference between a team that's going to play in a mid-tier bowl and a team that's going to threaten for a playoff spot.
Yeah. I agree, and I agree with you guys about talking about how it's good to have the veteran leadership. But the only thing that worries me, just hear me out. The only thing that worries me is that they have that tarnished culture, right? They have a little bit of Clay Helton, and they have this past Lincoln Riley culture. Like, they just have the tarnished culture, and hopefully it does not spread to the younger guys, and these younger guys could start bringing in new guys and start building a new creation on culture. So that's the only thing that worries me about it. So hopefully these guys do good. That was a look at the offensive line. Thank you, everybody, listening to us on the Mightier 1090. We appreciate you guys. Bet Online, go to betonline.ag, put in promo code BELIEVE, that's BLEAV, we get a 50-cent match bonus. So yeah, continuing on, like, I'm just afraid of the culture. That's the thing that worries me when I see these guys, right? It's like they had the year that they had before, and then all of a sudden they just took a decline. So to me, and it's just my opinion, to me it's like, I made it, and they didn't do anything to get better. And I've seen that with coaching. I'll give you a great example. We had this freshman corner. He was all-conference freshman of the year. The sophomore, junior year, he never got better, right? And he never worked. He was still stuck on his award from the 2 years prior to, and that's what I see with this a little bit. Like, the 2 years ago when Caleb won the Heisman, he was the guy, and everybody's high on him. Same thing with Justin Diedick. Like, they were the guys, but then I think their guys didn't work to remain the guys. So that's what I'm worried, that they're going to pass that on to the younger guys and be like, well, we were good our sophomore year. We made it, and you haven't arrived. You guys understand what I'm saying? So that's the little thing that worries about me. What are your thoughts about that? I'll start with Jamal, because I'm pretty sure he has a great rebuttal for me.
No, Fred. I mean, I think that's fair. At some point, though, we have to acknowledge that this is Lincoln Riley's team for the last 2 years. He is going into year 3, so the residual effect of Clay Helton, I mean, at some point has to kind of go away, right? We can't, Clay Helton hasn't coached this team now in 3 seasons, given where he got fired at the beginning of 20. And so, I think that we're in a situation here where this year, we talked a lot about kind of front 6, back 6. 24 to me is shaping up a lot like 16, where the team that sort of started 1-3 and then made a run, with Darnold. It feels a little bit like that very early at this stage, because when you open against LSU on a neutral site, your third game is at Michigan. You're talking about big physical teams up front with a lot of questions at the offensive line, guys that haven't really played in big games like this. There's a world here where SC starts 1-2, and then these guys start kind of settling into their roles. The quarterback gets comfortable, they get into a rhythm, and potentially can make a later season run. But I think the preparation this particular offseason is going to be absolutely pivotal, because they don't have that cushion that they did this year in terms of easing their way into the season. I mean, they're opening against LSU, and then the third game is Michigan. I mean, it's just bang, bang, bang right away. So I think how these guys prepare is going to be absolutely paramount to success in 24.
What do you think, Ryan?
Yeah. I mean, it's time now, and obviously you have a not new from the Helton era, but the new offensive line coach, and Coach Josh Henson. And, he's coached in the SEC, he's coached in the Big 12, so brings in different pedigree in that regard. So I get what you're saying. That's definitely a true fear. But these guys, even when you look at Jonah Monheim, and Pregnon obviously wasn't even there because he transferred, but Monheim didn't start in the Clay Helton era. So even though maybe if he was recruited by that, he has become a facet of the offensive line in this Lincoln Riley era and within this scheme and the system. So it's time to, just move on and move forward with that. And it's going to be a wild start. I mean, you look at that schedule, it's a fun, if you're a fan, it is a fun schedule. If you're looking at this team progressing from last year to next year, it's a terrifying schedule, I think, because of how things could go based on just the names on there. Now we'll see, what else happens. And obviously the transfer portal has been crazy already for a lot of these teams. But yeah, I think, I don't think the culture in terms of past versus now is something to really worry about, in my opinion.
I got you. I agree with you, but that's just where I stand. So let's talk about this. Where do we go from here as far as building the offensive line? Do we go check the portal? And because in my opinion, I will take one more guy, and I'm kind of like this with the receivers. If I don't get them in the portal, I'm good. But I will be highly high school recruiting here. I will start to build the depth here and with high school and start to create that culture and just I don't think I need to go to the portal at all for offensive line. Because they are young for the most part. The bulk of them are young. They did recruit some guys. So I think if I keep recruiting high school, I could get a good bulk of guys and I could get a good string of guys. And I think that room will be very solid and could be very good. And you could produce a lot of NFL athletes. What do you think, Ryan?
Yeah, I mean, right now, 4 out of their 18 commits are offensive linemen. Their number 1 rated commit is an offensive lineman, interior guy out of Florida. So, bringing in 4 new guys. I still think you probably hit the portal for at least 1, maybe 2. I mean, especially because there's some damn good names out there. Some high quality when you look at, Texas A&M, obviously that's going to be a whole different team. Some of those guys available, some Ohio State guys. So I think you try to entice 1 or 2 to come over, but the foundation, as you've said all along, Coach, and Lincoln Riley even echoed this on Monday, like that now they're in year 3 and they need to build it through recruiting, not through the portal. The portal is a nice, addition, a nice Band-Aid, but you build it, especially the offensive line, through recruiting. So, you've got 4 last cycle, 4 right now. We'll see if any more get added to it. But I still think you had 1 in the portal, especially just with the optionality out there of the talent. Like, why not at least try to go get one of these guys and add it to the room?
Man, what you got?
Yeah, I agree. I think you have to sort of, because this group still feels a little light, and even when you sort of come in with the four new kids coming into this year, I mean, you sort of have to look at offensive line as you got to recruit a lot, and I think that a really good hit rate is 1 out of 2. Like 1 out of 2 guys kind of pan out, and and end up being productive for you. Sometimes for some programs it's 1 out of 3, but I think the elite programs it's sort of 1 out of 2. So if you sort of just apply that and say, everybody we talked about here, if you kind of take a 1 out of 2 hit rate, okay, there's 1, maybe 2 really quality guys that emerge here. A strong line class out of the 4, maybe 2 guys pan out there, and I think I would sort of play that game. That still sort of doesn't give you a complete line. And I think especially for this year coming in, I think you probably need 1 more guy, maybe even 2 from the portal at one of these elite places that's looking at an opportunity to play more and get paid a little bit more and all of those things. So I wouldn't completely rule out the portal here as an option. And I think maybe next year you can be a little bit more selective and say, hey, these guys are panning out now, the pipeline's coming in. But I think we're still in that, sort of year 3 kind of intermediate spot with Lincoln Riley where he's going to have to maybe get 1 more guy from the portal.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah, so I mean, yeah, I don't have no disagreement with that. I mean, if you don't get 2, it's not the end of the world. But if you get 1, I mean, if you even don't get 1, it's not like, oh man, we really missed here. Because like I've been saying, when we flip over, we're gonna need a lot of portal help. Unfortunately, you know what I mean. So the offensive side, and we're pretty much. I mean, we'll talk quarterbacks next week, but when you really look at it, the offensive side really isn't that bad, and that's Lincoln Riley's specialty, right? He's an offensive guru. You can tell that he put a lot into the offense, and when you look at the future of this offense, and I think we shot our gun too soon because we didn't know what was happening. But like when you look at the receivers, they're loaded at they're young at receiver, they're young at offensive line, right? Running backs is a little scarce, right? And then when we talk quarterbacks is going to be a little scarce, but he might really be building this thing, and the plug and play players are the ones that we saw, but we didn't see the depth. Now that we're really combing through this thing, there is some depth there, and I think this might be something he is building. And the only thing is that it could pan out.
The one thing I'll say, Fred, is I think we have to sort of temper expectations with the line going into 24, because I think the 23 line was terrible. And I think a lot of it got covered up because of how improvisational and magical Caleb was in terms of his elusiveness. And so, he was able to mask, I think, a lot of issues. Now, he was running for his life a lot, and that was very obvious. But I think his ability to evade the pass rush allowed USC to stay on schedule. Even those incomplete passes allowed USC to kind of stay in front of the stick, stay on schedule, and his ability to evade. That was a once in a 10-year type of scrambler. Even the guys that they're talking about right now, Will Howard, Cam Ward, a guy like Cam Ward, who's ranked either 1 or 2, depending on the rating system in the transfer portal, took a ton of sacks at Washington State this year. Washington State was behind the chains a ton. He was sort of feast or famine. And so even if Cam Ward is the USC quarterback, there's going to be a world where there's going to be a ton of 2nd and 20s next year, just given his style. And Lincoln's going to have to really get in there and really kind of tighten up his mechanics if he's the quarterback. And Will Howard, he was a good athlete at Kansas State in kind of a Big 12 situation, but it's kind of a different animal here in terms of the teams that SC is going to have to play. So we have to temper expectations because this thing is really starting from the ground floor. I think the goal for 2024 for the offensive line is to be average. I think if they're average in 2024, I think it's a success because this 2023 offensive line was significantly below average.
You got anything for that, Ryan?
No, I completely agree. And especially going up against, the much bigger fronts that they're going to face in the Big Ten. And you just got to get bigger. There's just so much culture changing in terms of what you're looking for in athletes, mostly on defense. I think the shift is, but on offense, there'll be some shift there just because of the defense you're facing. So yeah, I mean, if they can just be average, I think that's a win in this conference. And then I'll give them all you ask is for an opportunity and a chance, right? Like give your quarterback a chance, give your running back a chance. And if they're average, they'll do that. It won't necessarily be great. But then you're building that with these 3 freshmen becoming sophomores, with the 4 freshmen coming in, the foundation is getting built. So, you hope by 25, this can be a top, 3 unit in the Big Ten.
And so a lot of people say, oh, well, the Big Ten is bigger, blah, 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 this and that. Who says that? The one thing that we can get advantage on is if we're faster, if we're more explosive than the Big Ten front, right? If we're just as big but we're more explosive, I think that gives us a competitive advantage, and the size really no longer matters. If that makes sense. If it's hard to explain, but I hope you guys understand what I'm saying. If we're big and we're strong, but we're also explosive, compared to the Big Ten Myths, they're just big guys. You know what I mean? Like they're just big refrigerators, clunky guys. But if we're big and explosive, if we're getting off on you, and we have that same strength, that puts us ahead at least 2 yards. You know what I mean? So I think that is something that needs to happen, and that needs to happen from strength and conditioning. So with that being said, we're going to put our guy Ryan on the spot and come up with we'll come in with our Stone Brewery coaches report. He was a part of a press conference this week. Was it Tuesday or Wednesday?
Well, Monday was Riley. We talked about that.
I'm not talking about Riley. I'm talking
Tuesday was D'Anton Lynn. Yeah.
Yes, we'll do a D'Anton Lynn. D'Anton Lynn press conference. So let us know what came out of that press conference.
Yeah, I mean, what I'm sure you did, Jamal. Did you watch or listen or read any transcripts, Coach, of it?
I have not had the chance. I saw your tweet, and then I was at work, and then 1 year old, so I would do that tonight.
Jamal, you saw it?
Yep.
Yeah, I mean, and obviously, at the LA Football Network, we cover him too at UCLA. But you, Coach, breath of fresh air. What he was saying that schematically, it's based on the players that we have and based on the opponent. So he basically was very clear, like, I don't have a specific scheme. Obviously, there's a 4 down front or whatever, but it's going to be based on our personnel and based on it can change week to week based on who we're playing, because not every scheme is going to work. And I think one thing that I took that I really liked hearing was him saying, like, I'm excited. He's on the recruiting trail. When he was on the call, he was in Atlanta. He was in Connecticut yesterday. So making the rounds quick. He hasn't even met the full staff yet since being hired. But he said he can't wait to get into the Big Ten film of the opponents they're playing so that they can start preparing for those offenses in the spring. So then when you get to game week, you're already prepared, and then you're just changing different nuances. So there's not like a whole new install that you're doing, which I think is a big breath of fresh air, considering our previous DC, Alex Grinch, talked about not seeing a play when it happened the week prior. So I think hearing that, and it's coaches speak, but I think last year's results at least speak for itself, and how quickly he integrated his methodology and his philosophy and stuff. So just a great coach. It was really fun talking to him. And, obviously he's in a new role, but you could tell he's excited to be here. And, it's always that honeymoon, right, when a new coach, but like, oh, so great to meet you, members of the media, and like, thanks so much for the time. And we'll see how long that lasts. But it was cool. But I think hearing the philosophy of what he wants to instill, how when he looks for an athlete, he looks first for versatility. He looks, obviously, like what every coach says, someone that loves the game, wants to put in the work. But I think him talking about players that can play different positions, whether it's a 4 down front, a 5 down front, whatever it may look like, and they don't have to do as much substitutions, because if you have a guy that can play at the nose, play at the 0 tech, the 3 tech, it gives you much more optionality instead of having to sub these different packages, which we talked about a ton. Jamal, you brought up a ton. Like, why are we doing these 5-man swaps every other play with these substitutions? And Coach Lynn is talking about, like, we don't want to have to do that. We want to be able to have our 11 guys and optimize them, and maybe throw in some substitutions, obviously, when it sees fit, when we're changing from nickel and dime packages and whatnot. So really, it was really cool to hear him talk. He's excited, and it'll be obviously more, we'll learn more once he's actually, met the staff, once he builds his staff, because he'll have some say in who they keep, who they go out and get. But obviously he's on the road now, meeting all the current and future recruits.
He better get him in shape. The second thing I have about that, did you tell him that there's somebody at LAFB that's really, really going to break down his defense? So it better be sound.
I did mention that. I'll have to next time. I'll have to. You can tell him at the Holiday Bowl, maybe.
Oh yeah, definitely. Yeah, no, but that's good to hear. So that's what most sound defense. When I played at SC, we did that in the spring. Like, we saw a little bit of something from each team that we're going to see, because like, you see it in the spring, you get your 15 practice in the spring. That's the chance for you to get better. That's spring training. And then you even see it in fall camp. You see something that you're going to see during the season. And that way you're not shocked, and you're not trying to learn something new in 4 days, right? Because once the bullets start flying, it's a lot of things change. It sounds good in practice, but in the game, and then bullets start flying, the band's rocking, things ain't going like they're supposed to go. A lot of things change. So he's putting them, what he's saying right now, and tell me if you've heard this before, he's trying to put the players in the best position possible to be successful. And that's how you win.
I've heard you say that before.
So I'm all good with that. Jamal, what are your thoughts?
He also said one thing that was interesting. Ryan didn't mention this part. I don't know if you forgot, but he also said, we're not that far away when I watched the film. Which sort of brought a little bit of angst to me. Because that sounds, Lincoln Riley spin, 2.0 right there. I mean, Ryan, what was the slogan last year? The longer the game goes, the better we are. That was the catchphrase last year. So that one, it was a little bit of a red flag in terms of what he said. But again, it's kind of the honeymoon period. Both these guys are great talkers. I mean, at the end of the day, it's going to come down to results. It's outcomes. I think it's fun to sort of hear them talk and be personable and all of those things. But it's going to come down at the end to outcomes on the field, outcomes in terms of who they recruit, outcomes in terms of how they can develop. So he's a great coach. There's no doubt about it. He was phenomenal across town. But this is a different program with different expectations and different resources, and so he better be ready because he's also going to be scrutinized in a very different way than he was across town. So he's probably going to need a little bit of media training. Both him and Riley probably need a little media training for 24.
No truth gaps. No truth gaps this season. You're not accepting any.
No,
any
no honesty gaps in 24.
No honesty gaps this season.
Yeah.
No, but I mean, yeah, not far off. Maybe they got some guys in the portal. I will say this. About Lincoln Riley before we wrap it up. And I swear, it seems like he's listening to us. And we talked about this a lot. They don't recruit California. And that first week, he was all up and down the coast of California at high school football games, high school playoff games, like right out of the season. So I think that's a big deal. And I think he is trying to make an effort to recruit California kids. And I understand. And I had a friend tell me this. He's like, dude, you got to understand that recruiting is now a nationwide thing. It's no longer a regional thing. Recruiting is nationwide. And I'm not against nationwide recruiting. I'm just saying that the base of your university should be California because you are in a football hotbed, right? So don't get outside of what you need to do. You're no longer in Oklahoma. You don't have to go to the next state over. It's right there in your backyard. You're able to do it. You got two of the top programs in the nation where you could just pick everybody that you want off those teams. And even like you said, Jamal, the hit rate's 2 for 1, right? You 1 for 2. I'm sorry, 1 for 2. You're still good. So yeah. I do like the fact that he was in the Bay recruiting. He had some people at the Coliseum for the Mater Dei Bosco game. There was stuff, SC stuff was all up and down the coast out recruiting, and I do appreciate that. So that's a change that he said he was going to make. And that is a change that he didn't make. The only thing I'm worried about is he doing it just to appease us? Because he is a little sketchy with his integrity. You know what I mean? So is he like, oh, we're here, you guys see us? Like, is he making a presence or is he really trying? So that's the one thing I'm waiting to see. So hopefully it does work out. You guys got
the one thing I'll say, Fred, is the one thing I'm very encouraged about is that DeAnton Lynn has been on the recruiting trail, from minute one. It seems like it seems like he signed his contract at 5:01 p.m. and 5:03 p.m. He was in somebody's living room, to the point where I'm not even sure he has sort of the latest USC gear. He was in some weird stuff, in some of these living rooms. They had to kind of give him some throw on shirts and whatnot, just because he's been on the run. So I think that's very encouraging. I think he's bringing in urgency and a tenacity to recruiting, and I think a meticulousness to his position that has been missing the last couple of years. So I think he's off to a great start. He's saying all of the right things, but we've been here before, and at this point, it's all about results on the field.
Yeah. So we need to see the results. I'm happy there's things changing. And I'm happy I got to spend another Thursday night with Ryan Dyrud and Jamal Magby. It's been fun, guys. The only thing I'm disappointed about is I appreciate the Lakers. I have respect for basketball, but no LAFB lounge today.
No LAFB lounge today. No LAFB lounge today. No. Switch the venue a bit. Just to keep it, keep it fresh. Got to keep it fresh in the off season, but it's LAFB Lounge. You'll see it on the next episode for sure.
Definitely. So next week we'll get into quarterbacks. There's not much to get into, so we need to find another topic to fill the rest of the time.
Hey, there may be a lot to get into by next week. You never know. I mean, it's it's the Wild West out there right now in terms of the marketplace. SC could have no quarterbacks. SC could have 5 quarterbacks by next week. Who knows?
All I'm saying is I'm not against the kid coming from Pullman. We have a quarterback guru. Hopefully he can get him right. Yep, I'm not against it. But we'll talk about that next week because there is something about him that I don't like. He reminds me of an NFL quarterback that I think is not good. And everybody thinks he's good.
Spoiler alert, it's Kyler Murray.
Thanks a lot, Jamal. The crazy part is I never even
that one.
I never even told you that though. Like we never had that conversation. That's crazy. How did you guess that? How did you know that?
No, because I see what you see stylistically.
Style of play.
Yeah, definitely. So we'll get into that next week. Hey, I appreciate you guys. We got good news today. We're going to see the Holiday Bowl, so we get to see the Trojans. I will not be in SC gear. I will wear my Dodger stuff for you, Ryan. So hopefully that's good enough.
Your Dodger stuff?
Yeah.
Oh, because it's at Petco?
Yeah, I didn't even think of it like that. I just knew we couldn't wear SC, and we're on the water. I needed a hoodie, and I like my Dodger hoodie. So there we go. It all works out. Definitely. Hey, I appreciate you guys. I appreciate you fans. Thank you guys for watching, listening, doing everything. 198, because me and Ryan's 2 thumbs count, Jamal. 98 thumbs we get Jamal in the beard until March. So
Until March, that thing's going to be big. It's going to be thick.
Oh yeah,
You're
you know,
allowed
an
to-
Indian beard till March. I mean, I'm there. I'm going to get the party started early at airport security. So let's just put it that way.
Jamal, you could groom it. You could like groom it down, but it just has to be a beard. You know what I mean? Like,
yeah,
it just
yeah,
has to
okay,
be-
that's fair enough.
Yeah,
Yeah.
It doesn't have to be disheveled. It can be. Nice.
you can groom it down, but
And
just
if
has
it's
to be a beard.
disheveled, I'll be honest with you. I'm probably going to be a flight risk. So it's,
I think you're fine with all the crazy stuff people have been doing on airplanes lately, so you don't have anything to worry about. I see a lady squat down about to use the bathroom, so definitely. I appreciate you guys. So you appreciate you guys.
You never know what you're going to get in the final 2-3 minutes of Salute to Troy. That's why folks got to stay with us till the end, because you never know what you get at the end of the show.
Yep. Thank you guys for joining. Thank you guys for listening. Live free, fight on.